Think you're in control of your emotions? Think again. The truth is, most of us are slaves to our feelings, reacting impulsively to every slight, every unfair situation, and every person who doesn't see things our way. But what if I told you that mastering your emotions could mean letting go of things we're told to cling to, like empathy, fairness, and even compassion? Growing up, I was always told that emotions were meant to be expressed, that bottling them up was somehow unhealthy. But I found the opposite to be true. The more I leaned into emotional control, into strategic detachment, the less anxious, angry, and frustrated I felt. I started to realize that often the emotions we cling to most are the very ones that hold us back. Learning to let go of these so-called essentials didn't make me cold, it made me unstoppable. Today, I'm sharing controversial Stoic techniques that challenge everything you've been told about emotions, from why empathy can sometimes work against you, to why closure is a luxury you don't need. If you're ready to take real control of your emotions and stop living at the mercy of your feelings, let's dive in. 1. View success and failure as temporary. We live in a world where we're constantly fed the idea that success is everything, that it's the ultimate goal. Society glorifies achievements, promotions, accolades, and even social media likes, as if these are the markers of our worth. But here's a hard truth. Success and failure are temporary states. They're passing moments that can make us feel incredible or devastated, but neither one lasts. Realizing this can feel jarring, especially if we've spent years chasing validation through our achievements or feeling defeated by our mistakes. But once you grasp the temporary nature of these labels, it's liberating. I learned this firsthand. I remember one of my biggest professional wins. I had worked tirelessly for it, sacrificing time, energy, and even relationships. When I finally achieved it, I felt an initial rush, a sense of fulfillment, almost like I had arrived. But the thrill didn't last. Within weeks, I felt that familiar itch to chase the next thing, to prove myself all over again. What I thought would bring lasting satisfaction felt like a fleeting high, gone as quickly as it came. And failure. I've had my fair share of that too. One experience stands out vividly. I'd put everything into a project, one that I was sure would change my life, open doors, and finally give me the recognition I felt I deserved. But it flopped. The failure was humiliating, and it felt like my whole identity was wrapped up in that one event. For weeks, I let it define me. I felt like I was wearing the word failure around like a badge. But over time, I came to realize that the world had moved on, and so had I. That failure didn't matter to anyone else but me, and it certainly didn't define me. Here's the deeper message. Success and failure are both illusions in a way, just fleeting moments in our journey. When we attach our entire worth to one achievement or let one setback destroy us, we're missing the point. Life is bigger than our highest highs and lowest lows. You're not a success just because you're winning today, and you're not a failure just because you lost today. Real fulfillment comes when we detach ourselves from the need to label ourselves based on these temporary outcomes, and instead start valuing the lessons each experience brings. The process of striving, learning, and growing through these moments is what gives meaning, not the label at the end of it. Understanding this doesn't mean you won't feel joy in success or sadness in failure, but it does mean you won't let either one own you. You'll keep moving forward, embracing each moment for what it is, a step on the journey, not the destination itself. 2. Stop making excuses for emotional outbursts. One of the most common ways people give up their power is by excusing emotional outbursts as just who they are. We say, "I'm just a passionate person," or "I have a short temper, can't help it." But here's the hard truth. Emotional outbursts aren't a sign of authenticity or passion, they're a sign of a lack of control. Justifying these moments only reinforces the idea that it's okay to let our emotions rule us, to let them spill over and affect the people around us. If we're honest, these excuses are often just ways to avoid taking responsibility for our actions. I remember a time when I'd let stress build up and spill out over the smallest things. I would get snappy with family, overreact with friends, and try to justify it afterward. I'd say, "I'm under a lot of pressure," or "I just need to let it out." I even believed that because I was being real, people should accept it. But it didn't take long to realize that these outbursts were only hurting the people I cared about and damaging my relationships. My friends were avoiding me, and my family would tread lightly around me, never knowing when I'd snap. It was isolating, and I couldn't ignore the damage it was doing. The real breakthrough came when I stopped excusing my reactions and started addressing the underlying reasons for them. I began to understand that my outbursts weren't signs of passion or honesty, but signals that I was struggling to manage my stress and insecurities. I learned that real self-control isn't about bottling up emotions, it's about acknowledging them without letting them control you. It's about saying, "Yes, I'm feeling this, but I don't need to act on it right now." The deeper message here is that taking responsibility for our emotional reactions is a form of strength. It's not about suppressing how we feel, but learning to respond rather than react. By stopping the habit of making excuses, we not only gain respect from others, but also build respect for ourselves. We start to trust ourselves more, knowing that we're in control of our actions, even when emotions are running high. And that self-trust is powerful. It brings a peace that no amount of reactive venting ever could. So the next time you feel an outburst coming, pause. Remind yourself that real power lies in restraint. There's wisdom in holding back and choosing a response instead of letting emotions run wild. In a world that tells us to just let it out, having the courage to remain calm, even under pressure, is a radical act of self-control. It shows others and yourself that you don't need to excuse your behavior. You're in control, and that's what truly defines you. 3. Assume people will disappoint you. It's an uncomfortable, maybe even a bit cynical, perspective. Expect that people will let you down. But this mindset isn't about mistrust or becoming jaded. It's about protecting yourself from the weight of unrealistic expectations. We're taught to believe in loyalty, honesty, and mutual support. So when someone doesn't live up to those ideals, it can feel like a personal betrayal. Yet people are flawed. They have their own priorities, struggles, and limitations. If you accept that people will disappoint you at times, you're far less likely to feel crushed when it inevitably happens. I learned this lesson the hard way. Years ago, I put my complete trust in a close friend. They had been there for me during some of my darkest times, so when I hit another rough patch, I just assumed they'd be there again. But they weren't. They had their own life, their own struggles, and when they couldn't support me the way I expected, I felt betrayed. I took it personally and thought, how could they do this to me? It hurt, but over time I came to see that the problem was partly my own expectations. I had assumed they'd always put my needs first, a lot to expect from anyone. This experience taught me a vital lesson about emotional resilience. Accepting that people will sometimes fall short of our hopes allows us to appreciate them for who they are, without idealizing them or expecting perfection. Ironically, when you let go of the need for others to meet all your expectations, you can see them more clearly, their unique qualities, their small acts of kindness, and the effort they make. You stop holding them to a standard they can't possibly meet, and you free both them and yourself from disappointment. This isn't about lowering your standards. It's about making peace with the reality that everyone is human, navigating life as best they can, just like you. When you approach relationships with this understanding, you also build resilience. Instead of feeling shattered when people fall short, you recognize that it's part of the human experience. Disappointment doesn't shake your self-worth, nor does it disturb your inner peace. You can say, "I see this for what it is, a human limitation, not a personal failure." This doesn't make you cold or detached. It makes you strong. At the same time, assuming that people will occasionally disappoint you gives you the clarity to set boundaries. If someone repeatedly lets you down, you'll have the perspective to step back and reconsider their role in your life. But your happiness and stability are no longer tied to their actions or choices. You're no longer hoping that people will be something they're not, and you're not devastated when they reveal themselves as flawed. Instead, you're grounded in the understanding that people will act in ways that serve their own needs, just as you might do in their position. Ultimately, this approach is about taking full responsibility for your own peace of mind. You're not handing your happiness over to others, hoping they'll handle it carefully. You're holding it firmly yourself, knowing that your well-being doesn't rest in the unpredictability of human nature. And ironically, when you release others from the weight of unrealistic expectations, you're likely to experience more fulfilling, authentic relationships. You let people be human with all their imperfections, and you find strength in your ability to remain steady regardless of what they choose. 4. Prioritize inner peace over being right. Choosing inner peace over being right sounds simple but feels impossible in the heat of the moment. Most of us have been there, caught in an argument, determined to prove our point, even if it costs us peace of mind. It's a hard instinct to break because we're taught that being right validates us. We see it as a sign of strength, intelligence, and respect. But if being right leaves you feeling anxious, angry, or drained, is it really worth it? I once spent hours arguing with someone over a minor issue. We went back and forth, each convinced we were right. I remember feeling a mix of frustration and determination. I was absolutely set on winning the argument. But when it was finally over, I felt exhausted and empty, like I'd lost something bigger than the argument. The so-called victory came with a bitter aftertaste, and it became clear that my peace of mind had been the price. Since then, I've tried to adopt a new approach. In moments of conflict, I ask myself, is it worth disturbing my peace to prove I'm right? The answer is almost always no. Holding on to the need to be right often keeps us in a mental loop of stress and frustration. You walk away from these interactions replaying every word, dissecting every point, trying to convince yourself that you won. But deep down, you know it's a hollow victory. What's the point of being right if it leaves you restless, stewing over things you can't change? Prioritizing inner peace over being right isn't about being passive or letting others walk all over you. It's about understanding that not every battle is worth the energy. Some disagreements can simply be let go, not because you don't care, but because you value your mental clarity more. This approach requires humility. It means being able to say, I know my truth, and I don't need anyone else to validate it for me. It's about feeling secure enough within yourself that you're not rattled by every disagreement or criticism. When you make peace a priority, you learn to choose your battles wisely. You recognize that some arguments, some people, and some opinions are simply not worth the toll they take on your mind and emotions. You don't waste energy on proving yourself to people who may never see things your way. Instead, you save that energy for things that truly matter, for the people and passions that uplift you. This mindset doesn't just make you more resilient, it also makes you a more compassionate person. By choosing peace over righteousness, you're better able to listen and understand where others are coming from, even if you disagree. You no longer see every disagreement as a challenge to your worth or intelligence, and that allows you to engage with people in a way that's less defensive, more open, and often more meaningful. So the next time you find yourself in a disagreement, take a moment to ask, is this worth my peace? More often than not, you'll find that walking away or simply agreeing to disagree is the better choice. And as you let go of the need to be right in every situation, you'll start to notice a lightness within yourself, a calmness that speaks louder than any argument ever could. You'll realize that peace isn't found in winning the battle, it's found in rising above it. 5. Delay your reaction. When emotions flare, the natural response is to react immediately, to defend ourselves, lash out, or prove our point. But often that first reaction is driven by anger, hurt, or frustration, and in the heat of the moment, we tend to say or do things we regret. The practice of delaying your reaction, taking a breath, stepping back, letting the initial surge of emotion settle, can be transformative. It's like building a pause button into your mind that lets you choose a response instead of being controlled by an impulse. This isn't easy. Our emotions are powerful and push us to act instantly. But pausing, even for a few seconds, gives you room to process. It allows you to ask yourself, what's really happening here? And will my reaction help, or will it make things worse? By delaying your reaction, you give yourself the chance to consider the full picture, not just your immediate feelings. I had to learn this lesson repeatedly before it really sank in. In the past, I had a habit of responding immediately whenever I felt challenged. Someone would say something critical or dismissive, and without thinking, I'd jump in defensively or say something sharp back. I thought I was standing up for myself, but more often than not, it led to arguments, misunderstandings, and a lingering feeling of regret. Every time I reacted instantly, I felt worse in the end. Not because of what they said, but because I didn't give myself a chance to respond thoughtfully. One day, after a particularly heated exchange, I decided to try something new. The next time I felt my emotions bubbling up, I stayed quiet. I let the other person finish, took a few deep breaths, and allowed myself a moment of silence. When I finally responded, it was calm, measured, and surprisingly effective. The conversation didn't escalate, and for once, I walked away feeling at peace. That pause had given me the clarity to respond without anger or frustration. Delaying your reaction isn't about bottling up your emotions or pretending you don't care. It's about recognizing that your immediate feelings might not always reflect the best course of action. When you pause, you're not ignoring your emotions. You're giving them time to settle so that your response can come from a place of clarity, not chaos. This small shift can prevent misunderstandings, diffuse conflicts, and even improve relationships. The beauty of this practice is that it grows stronger with time. The more you delay your reactions, the more control you gain over your emotions. You start to realize that you don't have to be a slave to every feeling that arises. You can choose your responses consciously. You can hold on to your dignity and inner peace, even in difficult situations. This doesn't mean you never stand up for yourself. It just means you do so in a way that respects both yourself and the other person. Think of it like this. Every time you delay your reaction, you're training yourself to be resilient. You're telling yourself, I am in control of how I respond, not my emotions. In this way, delaying your reaction becomes a form of emotional strength. It's a reminder that you don't need to be reactive to be strong, and you don't need to lash out to be heard. By taking that pause, you're preserving your energy for what truly matters and protecting your peace from unnecessary drama. In the end, Delaying your reaction empowers you to be more than just reactive, to rise above the momentary impulse and choose a response aligned with your values. And over time, this simple practice helps build a calm, unshakable center within you that others notice and respect. People will see you as grounded, thoughtful, and in control, qualities that can be rare in a world where reactions often overpower reason. So, the next time you feel that urge to react immediately, remember that taking a breath, waiting, and choosing your words carefully can be the most powerful response of all. 6. Find humor in the situation. When life throws challenges your way, it's easy to become consumed by frustration, anger, or even self-pity. But there's an unexpected and powerful antidote to stress and negativity: humor. Finding a bit of lightheartedness in difficult situations can shift your entire perspective and give you strength to move forward with a smile. This doesn't mean making light of genuinely serious matters, but rather learning to see the absurdity in some of life's setbacks and understanding that, in the grand scheme of things, not every challenge needs to be taken so seriously. Imagine this: you're having a rough day at work, projects are piling up, your boss is piling on extra demands, and everything that could go wrong is going wrong. You could get mad, let the pressure build up until it affects your entire day, or you could pause, take a step back, and see the humor in it. Maybe it's the irony of a perfectly awful day, or maybe it's just the comical timing of yet another unexpected challenge. Either way, humor allows you to momentarily distance yourself from the frustration, like stepping outside of yourself and seeing the situation with fresh eyes. Personally, I've had my fair share of disastrous days, from accidentally deleting important files to getting stuck in a rainstorm with no umbrella on the way to an important meeting. My initial response was usually to curse my bad luck or stew in frustration, but over time I found that seeing the funny side made these moments far more bearable. I'd imagine myself in a sitcom, with all these mishaps adding up to a ridiculous over-the-top day, and suddenly my annoyance would dissolve into laughter. I began to ask myself, will this matter in 5 years, or even 5 days? Most of the time the answer was no, and in that realization, the situation no longer held the same power over me. Finding humor in life's ups and downs isn't about avoiding reality or pretending everything is okay. It's about choosing a different perspective, one that keeps you from becoming too weighed down by challenges. Laughter triggers the release of endorphins, the body's natural feel-good chemicals, which help you relax and reset, even in stressful moments. It gives you the resilience to face life's unpredictability with a lighter heart. And when you bring humor into tough situations, others often respond positively, making it easier to resolve conflicts and ease tension. Of course, there are moments when finding humor feels impossible, like when facing serious or painful situations. But even in challenging times, a small joke or a smile can make a world of difference. Humor brings levity and perspective, reminding you that life doesn't always have to be so heavy. It's a way of telling yourself, I can handle this, because if you can still laugh, then you're not defeated. Think of humor as your secret weapon, a way to reclaim control over situations that seem intent on unsettling you. Instead of reacting with frustration or anger, a well-timed laugh can help you let go of what you can't control and refocus on what truly matters. When you laugh at life's obstacles, you're signaling to yourself that no situation is bigger than your ability to endure it. You're not minimizing the challenge, you're maximizing your strength in the face of it. In the end, finding humor in tough situations makes you stronger and more adaptable. It's a reminder that even when things go wrong, you have the power to choose your reaction. Humor doesn't change the circumstances, but it changes you. It's a choice to keep moving forward with a lighter heart, unburdened by the weight of every small misstep or mishap. And as you develop this ability, you'll find that life's challenges feel less daunting. You become someone who can face setbacks, misunderstandings, and frustrations with a smile, a quality that will serve you well in every aspect of life. 7. Don't be afraid to walk away. One of the most empowering things you can do in a difficult situation is to realize that you don't have to stay. Whether it's a toxic relationship, a high-stress job, or an argument spiraling out of control, knowing when to walk away can save your energy, protect your peace, and give you clarity. Walking away doesn't mean giving up or failing. It means you're choosing yourself over unnecessary conflict or misery. It's about understanding that some situations don't deserve your time or emotional investment, and that it's okay to let them go. Many of us feel pressure to stick it out, no matter the circumstances. We're taught to endure, to push through adversity at all costs, and to fear that leaving somehow makes us weak or quitters. But this mentality can trap us in unhealthy cycles. There's strength in knowing when something isn't serving you and having the courage to step back or leave entirely. Walking away is often the most dignified response in situations where your energy and worth aren't being respected. I once stayed in a job that was draining me mentally and emotionally. The work environment was toxic, and every day felt like a battle just to get through. My initial instinct was to push through, thinking that things might improve, or that leaving would look like I couldn't handle it. But over time, I realized that staying wasn't proving my strength, it was eroding it. Finally, I walked away, and it was one of the hardest yet most liberating decisions I'd ever made. Walking away didn't make me weak, it made me stronger, because I was choosing to respect myself over an environment that didn't. The truth is, we often stay in draining situations out of fear of what others might think, fear of change, or fear that we're somehow failing by leaving. But staying in situations that hurt us doesn't make us noble. It just leaves us worn down. If you're stuck in a relationship, job, or argument that repeatedly drains your energy or challenges your well-being, walking away might be the best way to protect yourself and move forward. It's crucial to understand that walking away doesn't mean you're abandoning responsibility or running from difficulty. In many cases, it's simply a choice to preserve your well-being and focus on areas where you can truly make a difference. When you walk away from things that don't serve you, you're freeing up space in your life for experiences and people that do. You're making a statement that your peace matters and that you won't tolerate situations that disrupt it. Learning to walk away isn't just about leaving toxic environments. It's also a powerful response in conflicts. When an argument escalates and reaches a point where reason has left the conversation, stepping back allows you to keep your dignity intact. It's not about losing or winning the argument. It's about protecting your energy and avoiding an emotional mess that only leaves you drained. Walking away in these moments is a powerful declaration of control. It shows that you're not ruled by your impulses or ego, but by a deeper sense of what truly matters. Walking away requires courage and self-respect. It requires faith in yourself and the belief that you deserve more than a constant struggle or a toxic environment. By walking away, you're choosing a path that aligns with your values and well-being. And while it may feel uncomfortable or uncertain at first, each step you take away from negativity is a step toward a more fulfilling life. The ability to walk away is an art of detachment, a reminder that sometimes the best way to handle difficult situations is to simply step away. When you walk away, you're letting go of unnecessary weight, and in that release, you find freedom. You're not abandoning challenges, you're redirecting your energy to those that matter. So don't be afraid to walk away when your peace, dignity, and well-being are at stake. Sometimes the greatest act of strength is knowing when to say enough and choosing to protect your heart and mind above all else. Controlling your emotions, especially in difficult situations, is a lifelong practice. It's a journey filled with setbacks, but every choice you make to stay grounded, to respond thoughtfully, and to value your inner peace over momentary satisfaction is a powerful step forward. This is not about suppressing your feelings or pretending you don't care. It's about learning to steer your emotions instead of letting them steer you. And when you master this, you'll find a strength within yourself that others can sense. A quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you're in control of your own mind. Each of these steps, from finding humor in a tense situation to walking away from something that drains you, is about choosing yourself, your peace, your growth, and your happiness. Imagine what your life could look like if you held this kind of control, if you responded to every challenge not with chaos, but with calm. People might test your limits, circumstances will push your patience, and setbacks will continue to come your way. But with these principles, you'll no longer be tossed around by the emotions that arise in the moment. Instead, you'll be steady, grounded, and able to focus on what truly matters to you. This journey is not an easy one, but it's worth it. You'll make mistakes, have days where you react quickly, and feel moments of regret. And that's okay, because each day you can make the choice again to approach challenges with calm and clarity. Embracing this approach to handling emotions isn't about aiming for perfection, but about building resilience and mastering the art of staying true to yourself, no matter what life throws at you. Remember, the goal isn't to become immune to emotions, it's to develop the strength to handle them with grace. By practicing these principles, you're not just protecting your peace in difficult moments, you're also creating a life where you're no longer a prisoner to fleeting emotions or other people's expectations. Instead, you'll become the one who decides how you feel, how you act, and how you let things affect you. So, as you go forward, let this be your reminder. You have the power to control your emotions, even in the hardest situations. You have the strength to find calm in the storm, to choose peace over conflict, and to walk away when your peace is at stake. It's not about controlling every situation, but about mastering yourself within them. In the end, true power lies not in the ability to control others, but in the wisdom and courage to control ourselves.